Hi, everybody. This is Andrea, president and co-founder of Stigma-Free Society, and thank you so much for joining us today. We have a very special guest, and Danika is here from We Matter, Indigenous youth-led organization that is supportive of youth mental health. So how are you doing today, Danika?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, we're very honored. We have been doing a lot of partnership with your organization, and we house We Matters toolkits on our student mental health toolkit. So we are bringing in an Indigenous lens, and we have learned that it's best to truly go to those who are able to create content in the Indigenous context straight from Indigenous youth and people who are passionate about mental health. So we're very grateful to be a partner of yours, and thank you so much for that. Okay, so Danika, I am going to share your bio, and if I say like your last name wrong or like anything like that, I may ask you if I'm pronouncing things right. So I will try my very best. All right?
Yes.
So I'd like to get, just people get to know you, context, and who you are. So Danika Vessel.
Yes.
Oh, I said it right. Yay.
Yeah.
Danika Vessel identifies as she, they, is of mixed Métis and settler ancestry from Temesking. How do I say that? Temiskaming Shores in Ontario. She's a graduate from Laurentian University with a degree in psychology and Indigenous studies, and is currently pursuing a Master's of Arts in Counseling Psychology. Danika first joined We Matter as an ambassador of hope when the program first launched in 2019. Since then, she's joined the team as the Outreach and Programs Administrator this fall, and has recently stepped into the Director, Partnerships, and Outreach role. So that is amazing. You have quite a history with the organization.
I do. Yeah. Thank you. It's been so great to be able to grow. I love We Matter so much. This is my goal. So I accomplished the goal.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I understand working with Stigma-Free, having passion in the work that you do. It doesn't feel like work, does it? It's like more of a passion waking up every day.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for those people who haven't heard of We Matter, I was wondering if you could share a little bit about the organization, the goals, and what exactly does We Matter do?
Yeah. So We Matter is a youth-led and nationally registered not-for-profit organization. And we're dedicated to Indigenous youth support, hope, and life promotion. And we're a small team dedicated to supporting the improvements of life of Indigenous youth. So we're all Indigenous, and we're passionate of the work that we do. And the reason We Matter was really created or founded was because suicide rates for Indigenous youth are several times higher than those of other Canadians, as well as rates for challenges like addiction, abuse, and school dropouts. So we believe that this doesn't have to be the case. And our work started with the We Matter campaign, which is a national multimedia campaign in which Indigenous role models, youth, and community members from across Canada submit short videos and artistic messages, sharing their own experience of overcoming hardships and communicating with Indigenous youth that no matter how hopeless life can feel, there's always a way forward. So we support Indigenous youth through the organization's 4 main pillars. And those are as I mentioned, the We Matter campaign videos, the Ambassadors of Hope program, which is what I started through We Matter with, and the hashtag Indigenous Youth COVID-19 Support Fund. And lastly, the We Matter toolkits and lesson plans that you mentioned that you folks are utilizing.
Yeah. Yes, this is part of our rural mental wellness toolkit. So we really focus in on remote communities, agricultural even, and people who are living in rural communities overall here in Canada. And I think it's really important that we talk about what We Matter does in that context. And I would really be interested to learn about in that the rural context. So how does that look different, or does it?
Well, really, so what's interesting is that We Matter was somewhat founded due to rural context. We Matter was founded by Tunchai and Kelvin Redvers, a brother and sister duo, amazing folks, in October of 2016, in response to Indigenous youth suicide crises across Canada, which we often see in isolated or rural communities. So We Matter was created with, those different projects that I mentioned, the 4 pillars, in order to support Indigenous youth with, all those different challenges.
Yeah. And I was curious, just expanding on that a little bit, how does rurality affect mental health in Indigenous communities in general, and Indigenous youth more specifically?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So due to the violent history of colonization in Canada, that has fueled intergenerational trauma, suicide is an issue that's far too familiar to many Indigenous communities. So things such as poverty, overcrowded housing, limited access to clean drinking water, and poor infrastructure also play a key role contributing to poor mental health. So if you partner this with little access to mental health resources, never mind culturally relevant ones, underfunded education, limited options for recreation activities, and ongoing experiences with racism, you get the perfect storm of risk factors, leading many young people to take their lives. And in fact, rates of suicide for Indigenous youth in Canada are 6 to 11 times higher than the national average, with suicide and self-inflicted injuries being among the leading causes of death for First Nation, Métis, and Inuit peoples.
Yeah. And facing these challenges, like, I have been on your site and you mentioned the inspiring story clips. And it's interesting because we do a very similar thing on our toolkits as well. When I went on yours, I just felt, so many of these Indigenous youth may be in remote communities, others in urban, but the thing that everybody really was sharing is the hope and the support for each other. And I just have to say that I really hope people will go to your website and watch the stories, because they're absolutely remarkable.
Oh, I know. I agree. I often, when I first started watching the videos, like, I could not contain myself. I would just cry and tear up all the time. Now I'm getting it together, and I've watched them so many times that I don't tear up as much, but they're definitely so inspirational, and can really make a huge impact for Indigenous youth.
Yeah. Yeah. And hearing from the voices of each other, and having that inspirational hope and sharing that it's okay to reach out for help, and it's okay to express that our mental health is important. And that was really a lot of the messages that I was getting. So I just wanted to comment that I really love that component of your website. And as you say, it's very prominent. So it's absolutely amazing. So I was wondering, in the terms of isolation, and what are the ways We Matter is addressing isolation and other mental health issues faced by people living in these rural communities?
Yeah, so while these issues obviously require complex strategies, like focusing on many different levels of economic factors and intervention, we believe that the one and most important area to focus on is the potential for youth to maintain the hope and create changes themselves. So Indigenous youth are often overlooked as experts and frequently viewed as the problem rather than the solution. So their voices are often tokenized, and few resources are put in their hands, despite the fact that many youth are the ones who are offering that peer-to-peer mental health support when their friends are not comfortable accessing formal services. So We Matter uses a unique approach to mental health, and life promotion support, by utilizing hope, culture, and strength in the form of online multimedia support, as the videos that we've mentioned, social media, workshops, youth gatherings, and resource and material development. in order to normalize discussions on hardships, hope, and healing from an Indigenous and youth-focused perspective, and attempt to fill some of those gaps that are present.
Yeah. And I didn't mention it earlier, but I was curious if you could define a little bit about the ambassador program. Like, what does that look like and how does that tie into We Matter?
Yeah, so the Ambassadors of Hope, so that, like I mentioned, that's how I started.
Mm-hmm.
It's a program for Indigenous youth ages 16 to 26 who share messages of hope, culture, and strength within their community and surrounding region. So with the support of the We Matter team, they deliver presentations on hardship, hope, and healing in schools and communities. So actually, right now, as we speak, the Ambassador of Hope application is open. So every year we open up an application, and youth, like I mentioned, Indigenous youth ages 16 to 26 in Canada can apply to become an Ambassador of Hope. And then, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, this year our Hope Forum is going to be virtual. But you get to spend some time with all these amazing Indigenous youth and with us, the We Matter team, to learn about, those facilitation skills, how to be those change makers ultimately in your community. So it's an amazing opportunity. It really changed my life. That's, why I've become so passionate about the work that I do. And I really highly recommend any Indigenous youth who are interested in applying, reach out to us if you have any questions. But the deadline is May 31st. So I really encourage youth to apply and join because it's such an amazing opportunity.
We'll definitely be promoting that for you in our social media. I do find this very interesting. And I'm wondering just about the structure a little bit. So do virtually Indigenous youth will meet online, and then do they then brainstorm ideas of how they can bring hope and change into their communities? Is that how it works?
Yeah, so really the Hope Forum is more of a training opportunity. So kind of bringing on different speakers who will kind of help lead those youth. But then monthly, the ambassadors meet with the Ambassador of Hope coordinator, John, and kind of have those discussions about how they can, lead some projects. They have access to funds to be able to lead projects in their communities. If opportunities arise, like say you folks from Stigma-Free Society had an event coming up and you needed a speaker, then a lot of the time we pass those opportunities off to the Ambassadors of Hope, who will provide us with their interests and what they like to speak about. So we'll kind of tailor, this ambassador would be interested in this opportunity, or this ambassador would be interested in this opportunity. And we pass those opportunities off because we just feel that it's better to have Indigenous youth voices, the ones that they're out there and are on the forefront of all of this.
Yeah. Definitely. And I also feel we must connect even more because we have presenters in the community going into schools virtually talking about mental health. And I really want to emphasize a youth Indigenous offering and lens, and to bring that from a very, authentic place that I feel currently we can improve upon as an organization, which I'm so glad that we're partnering with you to continue learning and growing. So that's really awesome. So coming now to COVID-19, I was just wondering about the pandemic and how this has affected Indigenous youth that We Matter serves. Could you share a little bit about what is going on out there?
Yeah, so it's unfortunate because prior to the pandemic, we would actually travel to rural and isolated Indigenous communities in order to provide those hope, culture, and strength workshops. And if there was a community in crisis, we would reach out, or those folks would reach out, and we would fly out there, bring a bunch of resources, and help uplift the youth with those video messages. And a lot of time, sometimes it's the We Matter team members, but we would bring ambassadors along for those engagements as well. So unfortunately, with the pandemic, we've had to kind of shift those workshops and youth gatherings to virtual events now for over a year. So it's, although, I mean, you know, doing things virtually work, we feel that it doesn't have the same impact as if you're in person with youth and connecting, you know, in person. It's just not the same. So we're definitely looking forward to being able to do that again and being able to travel to communities and spread those messages of hope in person.
Do you find you have a wider reach now for the number of people you're able to reach across Canada?
I'd say maybe. I think prior to the pandemic, this was something that we did anyways.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah. So we definitely have still made some really good, you know, contacts, have, you know, been, you know, speaking with communities. Lots of organizations have been reaching out just because of, you know, their mental health problems are rising due to the pandemic. So people are reaching out for resources. And I think that some organizations have probably also reached out more because of us offering these virtual presentations a lot more, rather than, you know, having all the costs associated to having somebody travel to communities.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, we're really itching for everything to open back up.
I know there's like pros and cons. It's so interesting, right? Because like with Stigma-Free, we can reach more schools now across Canada where we can Zoom virtually in with our presentations. And before we could only reach around 10,000 in BC a year. So it's really neat. It's interesting. As you say, more people are reaching out. But I do understand that in-person component and how special that is. And you can really look people in the eyes and you have a connection. But I feel like what we do is important, and let's forge on in any way we can, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So how does We Matter fill the gaps in resources regarding supporting the mental health of Indigenous youth?
Yeah, so We Matter has developed resources and materials in order to better support important conversations on hardship, hope, and healing, to begin within community. So a toolkit advisory group guided and supported We Matter in the creation of safe, accessible, and relevant content, all of which use the 200 plus We Matter campaign videos as a foundation in facilitating those conversations and knowledge on Indigenous youth challenges, intergenerational trauma, self-care, coping, identity, and hope. So we have the Indigenous youth support workers, teacher, and mini toolkit for ages 7 and under, which were created in addition to the mini toolkit and the We Matter lesson plans, which is an Indigenous curriculum on hope and strength for grades 7 to 12. And in addition to that, we also have USBs, which we can provide to communities with connectivity issues, which contain the various We Matter videos that are utilized in those toolkits. So this is especially great for those isolated or rural communities where the internet access isn't so great. And, you know, it might take a little bit longer to download a YouTube video, or not being able to do that at all. Like, we are happy to send some USBs to those communities for free, so that they can be able to still access those amazing messages of hope that come from, you know, Indigenous youth, allies, role models, and community members.
You just gave me a really good idea for Stigma-Free. Well, think about it, right? Like, we are now reaching into the remote agricultural rural communities, and this idea of the USBs, because we also focus in on documentaries, stories of lived experience with different stigmas too. So what a really innovative, cool idea to just get USB sticks out there.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a
great idea.
It wasn't mine, but I mean, it's an amazing idea. Amazing.
Yeah, because you can just plug it in the computer and then you have all of your content, because a lot of times, a lot of our content, you know, is printable, as I'm sure yours is too in many respects, but even that can be a challenge just to get on the internet.
Exactly. And I mean, and if folks don't have access to a computer, like oftentimes like community centers, libraries, town halls, places like that will have a computer that folks can access and just, pop that USB in there and, take some time to watch those videos.
Yeah. So amazing. Thank you for that, Danika. As well, I was thinking, like I obviously think We Matter provides a sense of community for Indigenous youth, and I was wondering when it comes to combating some of the mental health issues that arise in the rural context. So I was wondering maybe you could speak to that a little bit and how that's being assessed, helped, and yeah, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think as an Indigenous youth myself, who started with We Matter as an ambassador of hope, I've had the opportunity to experience this sense of community firsthand. I often describe We Matter as like a big family. I'm still in contact with many of the ambassadors of hope from my cohort from 2019 that I was able to meet when I went to the Hope Forum, which wasn't virtual. It was in Winnipeg at the time. So we all spent like a week together. It was a very intimate setting, all sharing stories. And it just really made me connect a lot more, just because I do live in an area where there's not much going on. Like, I'm from a rural community. Be able to be surrounded by all these amazing change makers, like I said, really changed my life. And like, in addition to like all the friends that I've made, like I also had received so much support from the We Matter team at the time. I was able to like reach out to them anytime. Some of my biggest supporters was Francis, who I replaced, and my co-director now, Chelsea. I would reach out to them a lot, and they have become very, very special to me. So now I feel so blessed that I'm now in that position where I'm able to support those ambassadors and to support community members and anyone who reaches out to We Matter. And it's just important for folks to also know that we're always happy to support anyone. So feel free to reach out to us anytime, because we're happy to answer questions. We're happy to send resources. And if there's any other way that we can help, we definitely would love to explore that.
Isn't it interesting when time unfolds, you end up where you're meant to be, right? And
Exactly.
So I think that's really beautiful. And you had dreams of moving forward with this organization, and the inspiration and the support and love that you received, and here you are now.
Exactly.
I love that. That's really inspiring. And I was also wondering, let's talk about the main initiatives of We Matter. Like, I know we touched on, the forum, right? And the videos. And I was wondering, like, is there any other like main initiatives that you would like to discuss at all?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I mentioned, and as you just mentioned, the Ambassador of Hope call out is like one of our biggest projects right now. Just because we're working on that, and we're working on the virtual Hope Forum. So again, like if anybody's interested in applying and becoming an ambassador, please apply today. You have up till May 31st, as I mentioned. But also upcoming is going to be our hashtag Indigenous Youth COVID-19 Support Grant. So this is a grant to support Indigenous youth and promote community wellness during the COVID-19 pandemic. So the support fund offers up to $1,000 for online projects that can occur in Canada and that are Indigenous youth led. So this is ages 13 to 30. So applications for the Indigenous Youth Rise COVID-19 Support Fund is opening up in June. So keep an eye out on our social media and website for more information on how to apply. But just like some of the great examples are like some folks have utilized those dollars to create self-care packages for their communities, putting online like concerts and events and things like that, using those funds for honorariums to bring elders, to a virtual event and have them share to community. There's so many ways that we can do that. So yeah, I think it's another great project that allows Indigenous youth to kind of bring hope and support their community during this challenging time that we're all experiencing, on top of everything else that we, that Indigenous youth go through.
You just answered my question. I was going to ask for some examples and things that people have done to date. Is this like the second round of this type of program?
Yeah, so we've done a few rounds.
Okay.
And also, like, previous to it being the COVID-19 support fund, it was just an Indigenous youth rise support fund. So previous to the pandemic, youth were able to utilize those dollars to, like, obviously do in-person engagements. It could be like projects on the land, things like that. So hopefully we'll get back to that soon, where, you can use those dollars to have an in-person engagement or gathering. But yeah, we're opening up another application soon. So if youth are interested, like, apply for that as well, because we love being able to support Indigenous youth with these amazing projects.
And I think the organizations in the charitable sector, could really step up around this. And like at Stigma-Free, we would be honored if we had a youth contact us and say, hey, we want to do something, an initiative with this grant with you, whether it was to do like a speaking event, and then I think that as well, people should keep in mind that it isn't working in silos, but how can we work together as a community, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So how can people get involved with you? I know we reached out and we saw your toolkits and your stories and said, hey, how can we partner? We've come up with some great things like having you on Facebook Live. We signed a memorandum of understanding. We decided we're going to do promotion of each other's events and social media. And there's been some really great things that have come out of it. So as people, and maybe as organizations as well, so how can people get involved?
Yeah, so I mean, whether you're an Indigenous youth, a community member, ally, organization, or business, as you mentioned, there's so many ways to help share hope, culture, and strength. Like you mentioned, if you are an organization or business, we love to explore partnerships for, doing those types of things, sharing each other's different events and participating in blog posts or online events like we're doing right now. But other ways that folks can also get involved is they can create one of those We Matter messages that I mentioned about the video campaign. So anybody can create one of those messages to bring hope to Indigenous youth. Or you can ask a role model in your community to record and submit a We Matter message. As I mentioned, Indigenous youth ages 16 to 26 can also currently apply to become a National Ambassador of Hope. Or you can invite a National Ambassador of Hope to your school or community or organization to provide one of the workshops. Other things that you can do is apply for the Indigenous Youth Rise COVID-19 Support Fund, which we just talked about. And you can also take the Hope Pact with friends, family, school, or community. Follow We Matter on social media, or request our materials in USBs for yourself or your community. And last, I think it's also important to kind of mention that you can donate or sponsor. We Matter is a registered charity, and our work does depend on the generosity of people who believe in everything that we do. So you can consider making a donation to We Matter or contact us to become a sponsor.
Amazing. I'm just once again so humbled that we're able to work together, and I feel creating those partnerships amongst businesses, organizations, charities, etc. It's it's vital to have those type of macro, and then obviously within the community, Indigenous youth and the community. So I really appreciate that there's so many ways that you can link in. And there's opportunity for everybody is what I'm hearing.
Exactly. And I mean, if anything else comes up, like, feel free to send us an email and we can explore those opportunities, because, we're happy to support Indigenous youth in any way that we can.
Nice. All right. Well, we're closing up. I just wanted to ask you, is there anything you directly would want to say to Indigenous youth, maybe even those specifically in rural communities who may be watching or will watch this later? And in regards to how they can support their mental health during this time, how can they support their well-being?
Yeah, so I think this is such an important question too, because it's not easy. Like for myself, coming from a rural community, there's a lack of mental health resources and supports, and that was one of the reasons that I actually created a video for your folks's rural toolkit, because
Yeah.
it's just something that, you know, growing up was not easy to have such a lack of resources and stigma. But it's important for Indigenous youth to know that to not be afraid to reach out for support, whether it be a community member, family, or friend. There's always somebody who's willing to listen and help support them. And as mentioned, you can also reach out to us at We Matter. We would be happy to send you resources or help support your mental health and well-being. And lastly, also check out our Get Help page, which is on our website. This section on our website has numerous amazing resources, which can also help support mental health. And you can also find like different resources by region. So it makes it really easy. There's crisis lines there. There's, you know, Kids Help Phone is there. You can just click and call directly from the website. Also, another one of our great recent partners is Nan Hope. They provide virtual and online counseling. So just reaching out to those folks are good ways to start. And yeah, if you ever need anything, please reach out to We Matter. This is what we're here for. And we truly do believe that Indigenous youth matter, and that they are so amazing.
Well, thank you, Danika. Please stay on the line, as I'd love to thank you personally after we go offline. And yeah, we really appreciate having you. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you again.
All right. And thank you everybody for watching. Please share this video, comment, whatever you would like to do. We really love engaging with all of you. We appreciate your support. Visit We Matter. We feel that they are doing amazing things, and we are very grateful to be in a partnership. So thank you everybody, and have a wonderful day.